Hello people, I'm the Real Comic Book Gamer, and today I'm going to be talking about why Man of Steel is my favorite comic book movie of all time. Now, it's not a perfect movie, there are flaws, I'm not delusional, I think every single thing was perfect about it, we could have gotten a better Superman movie, but I still think it's really good, and it's a great movie, it's my favorite comic book movie. So, I'm going to be talking about why today, I'm going to be addressing some criticisms, I'm going to try to address more legitimate criticisms, because you do have some really stupid ones, from like the blanket statements from people and things, where it's like, he never smiles, okay, what about this or this or this? Okay, but he never smiled. Then you have people like, there's not enough color. It's like, okay, that's subjective. I would have been fine with more color, but the lack of color didn't hurt the movie. It didn't like hurt the storytelling or anything. And you have people that are like, the tone's too dark. It just doesn't work for Superman. That was one of the biggest things I saw was when the movie first came out. You had tons of people that were suddenly the biggest Superman fans and just these big Superman experts. They knew everything about him. They've read every comic book ever, when actually no, they haven't. They just didn't like that he wasn't like previous media versions of Superman. They didn't like that he wasn't like the Superman, the animated Superman, who was a complete dolt and an idiot and just fought with his fists. That he wasn't like the Christopher Reeve Superman either, who was another Superman that I was fine with, but wasn't very comic accurate either. And and everyone was like, he doesn't match these Superman, so obviously he's not like Superman. It's like, no, have you read a comic? He is a lot like the actual comic book accurate Superman. It's just an early iteration because he's not a pro at this yet. Because this is the most comic accurate Superman we've gotten on the big screen to date. I love when people say that Superman doesn't work in dark subject matter, that it has to be light, he can't have any darkness around. It's like, no, that's too dark and gritty for Superman. That doesn't work. I love that because you can clearly tell that person's never read a Superman comic in their life. Superman works in dark subject matter. He's fine. As long as you keep the character the same, the world around him can be as dark as you want. He actually thrives in that because it shows that Superman is that light, that beacon of hope in that dark world. You have stories like in Superman Exile where Superman goes and he's on War World with Mongol, and Mongol makes him fight people like gladiators to the death. Superman doesn't kill anyone, but still it's in that atmosphere. That's not exactly something that's all light and 60s Batman-esque. You have Superman Legion of Superheroes, which is where Superman goes to the future with the Legion of Superheroes, and in that future there's this guy called Earthman who's basically future Hitler. He uses Superman's name to say, oh no, all that stuff you heard about Superman being from Krypton was wrong. He's actually human and he hated aliens. So since everyone loved Superman, everyone's like, oh man, Superman was this sort of perfect dude, this guy that always did the right thing, and he hated aliens, so obviously aliens are bad. So everyone's incredibly xenophobic, and they're just all pro-humans and anti-aliens, because, you know, it's the future, so aliens are everywhere. So I wouldn't call that something that's really light, where Superman is fighting future Hitler, and a guy that is using Superman's name to commit genocide. Or, for instance, at the end of Superman Ending Battle, where Manchester Black makes Superman think that Manchester Black had brutally murdered Lois Lane. Or in Superman, What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way, where in the end, Superman tricks Manchester Black into thinking that he killed his entire crew. There's a lot of dark times in Superman comics, but Superman stays the same throughout it all. He learns in the character progression, but he's always that shining symbol of hope that's always there, and that's what he was in Man of Steel. Everything around him was incredibly dark. You had tons of people dying. You had 9/11 style events happening, but Superman was still that shining beacon of hope. As long as he stays that, I don't care how dark the world around him is. Like I said earlier, this is the most comic accurate Superman movie we've gotten to date. It takes the main story, the main plot from Superman Earth 1 Volume 1, and then sprinkles in elements from Secret Origin, which is a great origin book, my favorite Superman origin book. There's even a part there that is just quoted pretty much like line for line by Jonathan Kent from Secret Origin. There's also elements from John Byrne's run on Superman, which is where they got a lot of their Krypton stuff. A lot of Krypton was inspired by John Byrne's run on Superman, like the whole Kelex thing and things like that, and I just love it. They took a lot of elements from the comics and mixed it well. It wasn't like they were trying to sort of like Batman v Superman, where they sort of just ham-fisted it in there and like, we want to cover two gigantic storylines in one. They're like, no, we've got the one storyline we want, and then we'll sprinkle in elements from others. Unlike Batman v Superman, where it's like, we're going to do Death of Superman and Dark Knight Returns, which both deserve their own movies instead of cramming them both into one movie. Another complaint from people is that Superman doesn't save anyone enough. That's not true at all. Bandit Incorporated did a fantastic video comparing Henry Cavill's Superman versus Christopher Reeve's Superman and who saved more people. And spoiler alert, Henry Cavill's Superman saves a lot more people. I'll link that video in the description down below. You should definitely watch it. He does a great job. But But Superman kills millions through collateral damage, so it doesn't matter how many people he saves. Actually, no, he doesn't. Now, Zod does kill a lot of people, but Superman not so much. I see a lot of people saying that Superman killed a bunch of people through collateral damage. There are only a few times where I was like, Superman shouldn't have really done that for collateral damage, but for the most part, there's not a whole lot of just Superman senselessly just punching people through buildings. And that final fight with Zod, there's only one part where he like takes Zod's face and he grinds it against the glass. Other than that, it's all Zod punching him through buildings. You see Superman's trying to avoid the buildings, but it's not so easy when you're fighting Zod. And then in the Smallville fight, yes, in the beginning, he took him through that nuclear place or whatever it was and the 7-Eleven, which he didn't need to. That is one thing where I'll say, yeah, he shouldn't have, but he was blinded by rage considering he saw Zod was going after his mother, and I think we could all relate to that a bit, saying that he didn't really think of anything else, because this is an early on Superman. This isn't in his prime Superman, which a lot of people for some reason expected. Everyone thought this was going to be in his prime Superman that was perfect at everything, but no, Superman's still in the learning stages. This is first day on the job. He just learned to fly like an hour before this whole Smallville thing went down, or however long. Like, he hasn't had the suit for very long. He hasn't known how to fly. So when he flies him through the nuclear thing and the and the 7-Eleven, it's like, okay. And I don't even think anyone died from that. I think it was just some collateral damage. I didn't see anyone in the car, and I just think it was collateral damage. He just probably cost Smallville some money. He didn't do anything else. And then throughout the rest of that, he doesn't really cause any other damage besides throwing well, I don't remember his name in the movie, but he's basically into the train yard, which was just more of him being like, hey, if I throw him into a field of corn, I don't think that's going to do some damage, so I'll probably throw him into the train that's going to explode, and maybe that'll do some damage, because Superman's thinking more of saving people's lives, I think, at this point, and how to defeat these guys, than he is of, oh no, I'm going to cost the city money. So, yeah. And then, in the final fight, there is that part where he takes down Zod's ship right in the middle of the city, and it's like, maybe you should have waited, but at the same time, it's like, what's he going to do? Is he going to try to wrestle the controls away from Zod and be like, no, I'm going to fly the ship, and then possibly crash into another building and kill people as well? So instead, he just takes the ship down as soon as he can, because it's not like he could have taken it down any other way. Zod's there to stop him, so he can't really do much there. His just whole goal is to take down that ship. That's the only real part where you can really be like, Superman, man, you killed some people by taking down that ship. But at the same time, if he doesn't take down that ship, even more people will die. So it sucks, but he has to do that. And then you do have the part where Superman just lets the gasoline truck slide into the parking garage, which you could 100% tell was a Zack Snyder thing, where Zack Snyder was just like, wouldn't it be cool if they fought with flames in the background? You know that's what Zack Snyder was thinking. That's the whole reason he did that, because that thing's coming pretty slowly at Clark, and Clark just flies over it. It's like, you should have stopped that. You could have easily stopped that. It's not one of those things where it's like, okay, I understand. It was just, you should have stopped that. But he didn't, because it was a Zack Snyder thing where, like, wouldn't it be cool if they fought with, like, an explosion and flames in the background? You know that's what happened. But Superman isn't hopeful or inspiring at all. I've had to re-edit this part about 1,000 times because it keeps getting copyright blocked for the scene that I'm showing, so I'm just going to show a screenshot. Anyways, resuming what I was talking about. I love that scene so much, since you have Zod and his cronies, which are these gods among men that are wrecking everything. Just one of them would be a problem for Earth, nevertheless a whole crew of them, and all these military guys and everyone on the planet is just like, okay, we don't stand a chance. We're gonna fight because we have to, but we don't stand a chance. There's no hope, nothing. But then you have one guy, this guy dressed in blue with a red cape and an S on his chest, is there fighting for you. He's the one guy that gives you hope and makes you realize, hey, this is worth it. It's not all over. What we're doing isn't futile. There's actually hope. And you see it in that scene where you have these soldiers that are probably heroes in their own right, that have fought for their country, are inspired by this alien that earlier gave himself up to help them to Zod, and now just fought them in Smallville and was the only thing that is stopping them from getting instantly destroyed. You see in that scene how hopeful and inspiring Superman is in that movie. That scene just sums it up perfectly. Just all those soldiers just looking at him. Superman easily, when he got thrown into that Sears, and then when they were coming in after him, he could have easily just taken off and been like, oh crap, I'm going, I don't want to risk these guys trying to, like, you know, shoot me or whatever, even though it wouldn't hurt him. But instead he decides to stay because he's trying to let them know that, hey, I am here to fight for you guys. And they realize that, and this is the one guy that's giving them any hope that they'll see tomorrow. back to the whole collateral damage thing. I see a lot of people saying that, why didn't Superman take the fight to an isolated area when he was fighting Zod? Superman could have easily done that, but like, hey, fight me out here, Zod. Okay, first, number one, why do people act like Zod is some puppet, some doll that Superman can just drag around and fight wherever he wants? Zod said he was going to kill a ton of people to get payback for Superman taking away his people. So if Superman flies off to some field or into space and it's just like, hey, fight me over here, Zod's like, nah, I'm just going to kill people over here and make you come to me. Doesn't work like that. Superman can't exactly tackle him and take him somewhere because Zod is a guy with the same powers Superman has, but has a better military mind, better strategy, and is a better fighter. So Superman's kind of outmatched here. You even see in the fight, he gets his ass kicked. It's not till the end where he gets lucky. So it's not exactly like Superman was in control of the fight and be like, we can fight anywhere. And even the one time they try to go to space, Zod sends a satellite back at Superman. So there's not much he could have done. That one time he tries to go to space and he sends him a satellite back at him. So it's not like he could have done anything to take the fight somewhere else. I hate that because I see so many people just assuming that for some reason Superman is 100% in control of the fight and can fight Zod wherever he wants. No, that's not the case at all. Zod is fine with Superman flying off and Zod just killing everyone. Zod's fine with that, but Superman would not do that because he knows Zod will just kill everyone when he leaves. Those are some general complaints I see from a lot of people around that have seen this movie. Now I'm going to be addressing some specific complaints from Patrick H. Willems. He made a great video, a really well put together video called DC Films Character Problem. It's a video essay talking about the problem with characters in the DCEU. And I agree with some parts, but in some parts I didn't agree with. And that's what I'm going to be talking about right here. I'm going to be talking about some of the points he brought up about Man of Steel, and specifically Clark in Man of Steel. So let's talk about that. And again, this video will be linked in the description. I highly recommend you watch it. It's a really good video. One of the questions he asks in this video is, how does Superman change from the start of the movie to the end? And he says in the video that he doesn't. But in actuality, if you watch the movie and pay attention, he does. He clearly does. You see in the beginning that he doesn't exactly have a purpose. He doesn't know what he's doing. And then Jonathan Kent sort of gives him a purpose. When Jonathan Kent shows him the spaceship, he shows him that, hey, you have parents somewhere else that sent you here. And whether it takes the rest of your life or not, you should probably try to figure out why they sent you here. And so that's what Superman does. And throughout the movie, he tries to figure out why they sent him here. And then he figures out why. And he actually gets a purpose. And he realizes, because he always realized like to use his power for good because of things that I'll talk about later. But he didn't really exactly know how to apply it. Then he realizes he can be a hero and a symbol of hope and try to lead them in directions that are away from Krypton's failure. Try to make sure they don't make the same mistakes that Krypton did, as Jor-el was telling him. So we see that that's a big change. Also, a big theme in this is action and inaction, because we see that Clark's father on Earth, his Jonathan Kent, he died because of inaction, because of lack of action. Clark didn't do anything when he just sat there in the tornado. Clark could have easily saved him, but he didn't. Then in the end, when Clark is sitting there with Zod, he's got his hands around him, and he doesn't want to kill him, but he realizes that if he doesn't, those people are going to die. And he easily could just do nothing and let those people die, but instead he decides, I'm not going to do the same thing that happened with my father and just sit there and let these people die. I'm going to act. And so he kills him, and we see that is a big difference from the beginning of the movie, where Clark would not have acted, but now he realizes that he's a man of action. He needs to make a choice there, and he did. And so those are two things that really changed from the beginning to the end of the movie. Also, in the beginning, we see that Superman didn't really know if he should have faith in humanity. When he goes to the priest to ask him, the preacher, he asks that guy, he's like, hey, I don't really know what to do. I'm the one that Zod guy is looking for. And he's like, I know Zod can't be trusted, but I'm not sure if the people of Earth can't be either. And then that guy tells him, he's like, sometimes you have to take a leap of faith first. The trust part will come later. And that's another big thing. By the end, he does trust those people, as we saw at the end where he's like, you're not going to figure out where I hang my cape. I know you're trying to, but stop, General. And the general's like, yeah, but Washington wants to know. And he's like, what do you expect me to do about it? And he's like, I don't know. I guess I'll just have to trust you. And it's like, that's another part where Superman changed from the beginning to the end about his viewpoint. Another question that Patrick poses in his video is what motivates Clark to help people in Man of Steel? Well, there's a part in the movie where Clark is getting bullied. He really wanted to punch the guys, but he holds back, and his dad comes up to him and he tells him how he wanted to punch them. And Clark and Jonathan have this conversation where Jonathan tells him that one day he's going to have to decide what type of man he wants to be, and good character or bad, he's going to change the world. That right there shows that Clark chose to have a good character. He chose to be a good guy to help people. And even another part in the movie, like I talked about earlier, when he shows him the spaceship that he landed in, he says, you were sent here for a reason. You need to find out what that reason was. And it seems like Clark found out that the reason was to help people. And then later on in the movie, we see that Jor-el reinforces that he was sent there to help people. So there's multiple times where we see that Clark realizes that he should help people, and he decides himself to help people. It's not necessarily other people telling him, hey, you should help people, you should help people. It's himself realizing, hey, I should use these powers for good. It didn't require his parents getting shot in an alley, or his Uncle Ben getting shot, or anything like that happening to him. No, he didn't need something to push him over the edge to choose, oh wow, I should be a good person. No, he realizes himself that, hey, I should probably do some good stuff with these powers instead of having to be forced into the situation. And that's part of what I love about Clark, is he wasn't forced into being the hero thing. He chose it. Unlike a lot of heroes who, through their tragic origin stories, are kind of forced into the hero position, Clark isn't forced. He chose. And another part, another thing that Patrick says in his video is how, wow, he's saving people already, when he's talking about the part where he saves them from the bus drowning. Yeah, I'd like to think that any kid that had a superpower that saw their fellow classmates drowning would save them. I think most people, without, you wouldn't even have to have good parents that are telling you, you should be a good person, to know, yeah, I should probably try to push this bus out of the water. Because I saw him complaining about that in the video. I was like, yeah, are you saying Clark should just be like, no, I'm not going to save these people? I think Clark realized there that he should, and I don't get that complaint right there, because a lot of people think that, and I don't know what side of the fence you line up on, but a lot of people believe that people are intrinsically good. It's just things and experiences that they go through that turn them to where people aren't so good. So Clark is early on in his life, and so he realized, yeah, I should probably save this bus full of children. Then you also have his parents instilling things into him as well. And yeah, I just like that Clark chose to be a hero. I know there are a ton of more complaints about Man of Steel, but that's the main ones I hear, so I wanted to cover those. So now I'm going to get into some of the stuff that I really loved about this movie that I haven't already covered already, because I have talked a lot about what I've loved about this movie. But one of the things I really loved is the fact that most superhero movies, most comic book movies, struggle to have one decent villain. This movie had two great villains. Zod and Faora were both badass, awesome villains. I loved them. They were so cool. They're written really well. I liked Zod's, his passion behind what he was doing. I liked Zod's motivation. I understood where he was coming from, but I definitely didn't agree with him, which I thought was a good balance that they struck there. It was like, okay, you see why Zod's doing what he's doing, but you definitely don't agree with him. You're definitely not on his side, but it's understood why he's doing what he's doing. And of course, Michael Shannon gives a fantastic performance, makes him incredibly intimidating. Two of my favorite parts of the movie are Zod's "I will find him" speech. I love that part where he's just talking to Laura, and he's also talking to the Council of Krypton, where he's like, you wouldn't sully your hands. I love that. And then the final speech he gives to Clark before they fight in Metropolis, I love that speech. Both those speeches are fantastic, and Michael Shannon really shows his acting chops. He's a fantastic Zod, and he completely killed it. And Faora is a great secondary villain that's a badass. I love her speech to Clark when she's just telling him, like, doing the whole evolution thing and kicking his ass the whole time. She was a badass. Then how she's so creepy. Like, Zod to me is more intimidating, but Faora is creepier, if that makes sense, if you get what I'm saying. They're just together and they make a great combo. And for a comic book movie to have two great villains, when most comic book movies, even good comic book movies, can't even have one, that's something special right there. Most MCU movies have god-awful villains, but Man of Steel has two great villains. And then it also had a really good supporting cast. Yes, I would have loved a Jimmy Olsen. It sucks that we didn't get one, but still, for the most part, I liked the supporting cast, and I liked the way they were written, which you really appreciate a supporting cast after watching something like Wonder Woman, where Steve and Diana were great. I love them. I do like Wonder Woman. It's a good movie, but the rest of the supporting cast and the, well, not the cast, but the way they're written. I don't have a problem with the actors. I just want to make that clear. It's the characters, the way they were written. The villains and the supporting characters sucked. You don't care about them at all. That whole band, they're just terrible. No one cares about them. Steve and Diana, great. Everyone else you don't care about. To where in Man of Steel, I love Jor-El. I love Jonathan Kent. Yes, there are some mixed things. There are some people that hate him. I thought Kevin Costner did a great job, and I like the way he's written for the most part. Yes, there are some things they could have done better. Like his death is one of the things I felt like they should have done the whole heart attack thing. I feel like that would have made a much bigger imprint on the movie than the tornado. But still, I liked what they did with Jonathan Kent. I really loved Martha. She was great. I love when Clark first goes back to see her, and she's so happy to see her son again after he had been gone for so long on his journey searching for his purpose, and her to finally see him again, and their interaction is great. When Clark first comes back, she's like, "Nice suit, son." I love it. She's so great, and she does bring a lightheartedness to the movie that's not in the rest of it. Lois overall I liked, but there were some things that I didn't care for that they did with Lois. I wasn't a fan of the Amy Adams casting. Amy Adams is a great actress, but I don't think she was good casting for Lois. She just doesn't pull off the role well, but I do like the chemistry that her and Henry Cavill had, especially in that first sort of, it's not an interrogation scene, but they're in the interrogation room. That scene, I love that. They have good chemistry there, and I did like Lois. I loved Perry White. I thought he did a fantastic job. I just wish he would have taken the earring out, because that just looked weird for me. Like Perry White wearing an earring, it's just like, that doesn't fit at all. But besides that, yeah, I loved Perry White, and yeah, just overall, I like Lambert was okay. It's just the supporting cast, the supporting characters were good. I enjoyed the supporting characters. I thought they did a really good job with that, especially, like I said, when you have other comic movies like Wonder Woman, that's a good movie, but the supporting characters are just lackluster and terrible, to where this movie had actual good supporting characters. And the fact that I actually got to see Superman on the big screen was awesome. I love seeing the Superman I know and love from the comics on the big screen. Like I said earlier, that scene where he inspires the soldiers, I love that. I love the scene where he tells Zod, you know, "You're a monster and I'm going to stop you." I love that. I love seeing one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie, which I don't know, even people who hate this movie, if you hate the flight scene, there's something wrong with you. I'm sorry, but if you hate that scene where Superman first learns to fly, what is your problem? How can you not like that scene? It's fantastic, Superman. The score is great. The cinematography is great. Like, everything about the whole flight sequence is perfect, where he's learning to fly and he's honing his powers. I love that. And Henry Cavill, like, smiling and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing it." Like, that part where he's so excited about, like, flying. He's like, "Holy crap, I didn't know I could do this." And he does it. And Henry Cavill just, I thought, was great as Superman. I know a lot of people didn't think he did good as Superman. I thought he did great. Yes, they could have given him more to work with, but overall, I thought Henry Cavill did a great job. And he really brought Superman to life for me, and just I loved him as Clark, and just I love seeing Clark on the big screen. Well, Superman, because we didn't get to actually see the Clark part. Like I said, there are things that I have problems with this movie. Like, I would have loved to see actually Clark Kent become a part of the Daily Planet in this movie and actually be a reporter, but it's still a really good movie. Just there's very few, there's like no perfect movie. Every movie has its problems, but overall, I really do love this movie, and that's pretty much all I'm going to talk about today for Man of Steel. I made a bunch of different videos on Man of Steel before. I made like a 40-minute podcast talking about why I love it, and today I just wanted to address some more of the criticisms and talk about why I really love it. Not everything, there's still a lot more I could have gone over, but like I said, I've talked about Man of Steel a lot, and I just want to talk about it again, because with Superman Week, I have an excuse to talk about Man of Steel again, since it's my favorite Superman movie of all time, and that goes for animation or live action. I think it's better than any animated Superman movie as well. I know a lot of people don't agree with me there, but I would say so. So anyways, please let me know in the comments below, what are your thoughts on Man of Steel? Do you hate it? Do you love it? If you do hate it, why? If you do love it, why? And I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys later.
Yeah, I grew up with the prenup. Mama said keep my C up. Now noticing I'm getting caught cracker and getting beat up, but I stayed up long nights, working hard on my craft. Gave a fuck about the bullies or anyone in my path.